We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Hi, and welcome to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean Noel Bassior, and Susan Levin is out today, but I have a co-host, Rick Fleishman, who happens to be my brother. And it's good to have a brother who can co-host with you.
It's good to have a sister who can co-host and who can ask you to co-host.
And who can get a show.
That's right. That's right.
So we have some great guests for you today. Adriana Bani Cohn, Cohn, I should say, is going to be on the phone from Canada in just a few minutes. And then we have Diane Polnow coming on the second segment. And Adriana has written a book called The 12 Laws of Living. She'll be joining us by phone. And Diane has written a book called The Baby Debate. And so they're both going to talk about their books. And they both got some interesting and maybe very provocative things to say. And I want to mention that Susan Levin and I will be teaching a teleclass with Bob Baer, who bills himself as a serial entrepreneur. He's really he coaches and mentors entrepreneurs around the world. And this will be 4 Thursdays in September. So you can, if you'd like more information, just contact Susan, and that's Susan at speakerservices.com for more information about that. So, hi, Rick.
Hi, Jean. How are you?
Yeah, it's kind of strange to be here, but
it's a little artificial, but this is what we'd be doing if we were sitting around my office, as we often do, just kind of batting it back and forth.
That's true. Your office in the Artists and Writers building in Beverly Hills.
Writers and Artists building, yes.
Yeah. So you have a business, and you are a musician.
I am a musician.
Dad said you never could make a living as a musician, didn't you?
Dad, you're wrong. Yes, I do make a living as a musician. I have been for all my working life, and I will continue to as long as they will let me. And I guess every artist is really a small business person, whether you know it or not. So that's what I do. I do music for film and television. I have students. I do some live music, but primarily, I don't know, I guess about 50% playing sessions and things and 50% composing. And,
right, and then you took over like visual music service, right?
Well, no, actually visual music service has always been my company. I was in business with another person who unfortunately passed away. With him went the name of the business to family members. And I started my own contracting business. It's a hard thing to explain, but basically it's a music contracting service where people tell me that they need musicians, a certain size orchestra or an ensemble for a recording or for an on-camera appearance on a television show or a movie. And I put those things together, and that often involves writing and producing the tracks. So that to me is the more meaty part, but it's all interesting.
That's the creative part, right?
That's the creative part, yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the other part involves putting people to work, and so that's a good thing as well.
Right. And, I was thinking about that because Susan and I usually give tips for speakers at the beginning of the show. So I was looking at these tips that Susan had gathered, because she always does such a great job of finding this amazing material. And this was, these are tips by Andrea Gold, who's president of Gold Star's Speakers Bureau. And they were compiled by Annie Jennings. I think they were on her blog. But I was looking at a few of them, and one of them I realized that you've talked to me about. It's not about speakers, but it's like for your service, like if somebody is a musician and they want to contact you. So you have like certain things that you need, like a demo tape.
I need a picture. I need... We don't use tape anymore. I don't know if you know
I'm
that.
sorry.
Well, I need a sample, either a website or a digital recording or something that proves that somebody can play what they say they can play. I need references. I don't need a resume, but I get a lot of resumes. Resume to me is almost useless, but I get a lot of resumes, and to tell you the truth, even if I needed the resumes, most of them would be useless as well.
Well, that's interesting because this tip was to speakers who, the tip is check out the Bureau's website
Right.
for guidelines on how to
Everything.
approach them.
Right.
And don't send unsolicited marketing materials, and to add insult, don't send huge files. But I know sometimes even when I've referred people to you, you've gone like,
Yeah. Well, I'm in media. I mean, the files are going to be large. That's
Right.
the way it goes. It's not going to be
Right.
like little Word files that are 500 kilobytes. They're going to be big files. I've made peace with that. But people do send, like on my website, it says if you want to be on my database, I need one good, clear picture. I don't need a resume. I need a sample of your work. If you say that you're a violin player, I need something that proves you're a violin player. I need references because I'm going to call that fellow that you said endorse your violin playing. I'm going to say, hey, can she play? Can she not play? What's the deal? So these are the basic things I need. I get pictures of the back of people's heads. I get resumes that go on for 5 and 6 pages with lists of credits, none of which mean anything to me because I don't care what you have done. I care what you can do with me. So people don't read directions, first of all. And second of all, they send me badly prepared material. And I have spent hours on the phone with people saying, if you just use your spell check, or if you would just follow directions, I would feel better endorsing you as someone who's going to work for me. But if I get a poorly prepared package or a package that flaunts all the rules that I've given them, I'm going to think, well, if they can't get it together to give me this, how are they going to be on a recording session or on a set?
Right, exactly. So it's so important that people, this is a tip for speakers when they're approaching bureaus, but it's like that, we always tell people, like, if you're going to approach a meeting planner,
Right.
Or somebody like you, like an agency, somebody who can book you work,
Yeah.
You've really got to follow the instructions. And that seems to be something people have a difficult time with.
I found in doing the kind of work that I've been doing for years, for 40 years, usually club owners will tell you what kind of music they want. Usually recording contractors will tell you what kind of sessions they usually book. They'll tell you if you need to read or if you need to be a faker or whatever it's going to be. Usually people will tell you what they need to help you work with them. And it's up to you to then follow those directions. And if you don't follow those directions, anything good that comes after that is sheer luck because it's not based on your skill at following directions. So like when I'm recording, like I'll stop a band. If the first bar isn't good, I'll stop a band, and often they'll go, well, why are we stopping? And I go, because if people don't hear what you do at its very best at the very beginning, they're not going to listen to the rest. And this is sort of a similar thing.
Right. It's like put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Now I love one of these tips. Sometimes these tips are kind of a strange kind of a mixture of things.
Right.
You mustn't possess a questionable attitude.
What does that even mean?
You shouldn't be arrogant, contentious, or a prima donna. Now I'll tell you something about that in my field in publishing, because one of the things I've seen with first-time writers is they'll write a query letter to an agent. And a query letter is, the first letter you send to try to get your foot in the door. And then at the end, they'll instruct the agent what to do. Like, please give me a call as soon as possible. And I always go like, wait a minute, you're a first-time writer.
Right.
And my attitude when, approaching agents or editors when I was starting out as a writer was to sort of be not to be contentious or arrogant. And I was so amazed at how often, though, I would find people doing that. And I think part of it's because, like, you're on edge, you're nervous, maybe you're submitting to a magazine or an agent, it's your kind of first time doing it, or you're not, and it's like, sometimes you're kind of pissed off, you just like, you don't feel like being nice, but you've got to be nice, people, you really do.
But I think there's also a lot of garbage information out there with people saying, oh, everything's got to be positive and everything's got to be up and you are what you are and all this. And maybe so, but keep it to yourself. You are what you are, but you're also trying to some extent, market yourself. And people basically don't like until you've proved yourself. They basically, I think, don't like it when you think too much of yourself before you've really demonstrated what that is.
Right, right. You do have to prove what you can do.
Right. In my, nothing compared to you, but in my limited experience as a journalist, sending out query letters, you just had to basically get to the point. This is what I would like to write. This is how I'll present it. If you're interested, love to hear from you.
Right.
And that's enough.
Right. And summarizing, what you have in a paragraph or so. And this also, if you're looking for speaking gigs, one of the things that Susan and I do in our coaching is show you how to write a proposal or a follow-up proposal. And so you do have to really summarize what the you speak about. You have to know who you are and what you do, which a
Right.
lot of people don't know. Was there a call? Did you say we actually have a call? Okay.
We take calls.
We do. It's coming on now. Yes. Who's the call? I'm not hearing it.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Hello. I'm good, thanks. Adriana. Cohn.
Oh, that's
Oh,
our first
that's our
guest.
guest. That's our guest.
Oh, that's our first guest.
Are we there yet?
Well, we're almost there. So let me just let me just finish this point. Hi, Adriana, and just to wind that up about we thought you were a caller to the show. So just to wind that up about speakers, it's very important that you do what Rick just said, and be able to write a short proposal. I was going to say sometimes for speaking proposals, it's just like a paragraph or two, but you have to be very, very clear on what you can do for the organization, what it is that you do, what you can do for them. And so that's just to finish up we always like to give a few tips for speakers each week.
Right.
So, hi, Adriana. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, thanks. How are you, Janelle?
Good. So,
Hello?
let's introduce you. Rick, you were going to talk about
Yeah,
Adriana.
right. Okay. Well, it took us by surprise, but
Yes.
better early than not at all. Hi, Adriana. How are you doing?
Hi.
Okay.
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Well, I understand that you are a college instructor in math, science, and psychology. Where is it that you teach? Where's your position?
Okay, I'm in Canada, and the college is centered in Sudbury, and this is a branch in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. So you got interested in the laws of the universe. You got interested in hidden laws of the universe that can maybe contribute to our success. Yes. And with your background in science and psychology, you wanted to find out if these things exist. Can we make an easier life for ourselves? Can we end struggle, align with our destiny, and make these things sort of work for us instead of working against us? Is that what you're
Yes.
about?
Yes.
And you've written the 12 Laws of Living, right? And I know that you focus on antimatter and the relationship to the soul, right? Because I don't stay awake a lot at night thinking about antimatter until I became familiar with your work. But then you actually believe that antimatter is the substance of the soul. Talk about that. Like how did you arrive at that conclusion?
Well, it is a bit strange how I arrived. So I would start with when I started to think about conscious, and everything was more like scientifically happening. It's in our brain. Then when we are conscious, we are alive. But when we are not conscious, we are not alive. So it has to be with the brain. And then from there, I went to the fact that thoughts are, the latest discoveries in science are that thoughts are electromagnetic waves, and we can even measure their intensity. And on top of that, we also know that from science that our body possesses an electromagnetic field around it. And in spiritual way, this is called aura, but in a scientific way, this is the heat of our body, which is actually an infrared radiation and is a type of electromagnetic energy. And then we can see this only through night vision camera. But to tell the truth, my story is a bit strange because it didn't start from here. And I don't know how to explain what happened and why it happened, but I can tell what happened. And while this happened just years ago when I was resting on my couch, and in an ordinary day, I felt an extension of my awareness, and to the point that I really felt scared to see so much in just a fraction of seconds. And after that moment, everything was quiet, nothing extraordinary. But months and months later, I started to dream about strange things, ideas, and I never heard in my life about, I heard about antimatter because I'm a scientist, a science teacher, not a scientist, but a science teacher. I know a little bit. But those were concepts, mostly like philosophical questions and ideas that I never dreamed before to think of it or to go so deep. I was just living my life and I was happy, but I could not stop this process, and I had no control over this because it was happening when I was sleeping, little by little every night. I was like couldn't have a deep sleep, but it was like somebody talking to my brain and lecturing me in philosophy and physics. And unfortunately, every time I woke up, I could not remember all the formulas and all the concepts, just pieces of them. And that's what made me more curious to start searching and reading more about, what is out there, what the scientists have reached, to what point is science now. And to tell the truth, my life became very busy, and I had to organize my time. That I had to go to bed at 10 and wake up at 4, and I had 3 hours window to work on my work, and then I had to take care of the kids and go to work myself.
Well, it sounds like you had. It sounds like initially you had, a mystical experience, right? When the first time, right? Which, a lot of people have had, kind of like an expansion of awareness, right? Did it feel like that? And then it sounds like, if I'm understanding what you're saying, that you began kind of downloading a lot of information every night, right? And then how did that, so I'm trying to go, like, how did that bring you to the 12 laws? Because I see that the soul is electromagnetic energy. You got that part. And then how did you get from that to the 12 laws of living that you write about?
Well, that was also part of what I was told in my dreams, and not that I was dictated. I probably did, and I wasn't aware of, but I know that I was told that there are 12 laws. And in moments when you're desperate, upset with your life because life gets so busy, and unfortunately family members couldn't understand this all of a sudden change of interest, and neither could I. But this is one of the laws, and now I know what's happening, because once you are full of this energy, this specific energy, which I talk in my first part, in my book, on the first part of the book, you cannot control this energy anymore. You cannot stop this process, because it will direct you to do things and say things that you're supposed to do and say until all this information is shared with others. So, yes, that was a long process of 3 years figuring out what the 12 laws were. And all I remember is that one of the things that I remember, I could remember, I woke up and I was surprised. What was that? Is that the 12 laws of living were 12 laws which I wrote in my book. And I hadn't written my book at that time.
So give us a couple of,
Secret Beyond the Secret, but I don't talk about laws in that.
Right. Give us a couple of examples of the 12 laws. Like, give us maybe 1 or 2 examples.
Sure. Some of the laws are the laws that we all have heard about, like the law of karma, law of attraction. And I also call law of destiny, because we all say things happen for a reason. And but there are also laws that we may not have heard of, like the law of giving and receiving, and the law of resistance, like we learned through pain. This is one of the laws. So I'm gonna just give a little bit of like introduction of the law of karma. So what's specific of this law in my book is that I try to explain that in a scientific terms. And everybody has thought of karma as something spiritual, and you don't do bad things to others because it will come back to you. But no one realized that, in fact, they are talking about one of the most fundamental laws in physics. The energy never disappears to nothingness or is created from nothingness. Energy goes around and transforms from one type of energy to another. But what kind of energy goes around and transforms from one side to another, from one person to another, this is explained in the first part of the book. And another example, which is my favorite, is the law of giving and receiving. This law states that when we think, we give out this specific energy. And when we receive information, in whichever form, like music is information that goes in our brain, or visual information, or by hearing anything, any information that comes to our brain is receiving that energy.
There's one question, Adriana, there's one question that comes out of this that I have, and that is, how did your life change once you discovered all of this? What were some of the immediate benefits to you?
Oh, yes. You understand what, the main question of this book, and I thank you for asking this question, because this is the main focus of this book, is to answer the question, should we blame ourselves, or should we blame our others for our errors, or for any errors, injustice, pain, anything? And I came to the conclusion that because of these 12 laws, no one, for as long as we are not aware what's happening behind the scenes, then no one is to blame for their human reactions. However, I think we are now at a crossroads, and we are faced with one dilemma or decision. And I would say here's a dilemma that I keep thinking, why did I figure out this law now? Why was I given this information? Because obviously, as Gino L said, it's like downloading some information. So why couldn't they figure it out earlier? Because if you read the book, the 12 laws of living are not so hard to understand. Not hard at all. And then how come it's now that we get these 12 laws? And I'm thinking, maybe this is the right time that human mind is able to comprehend this knowledge. That's why. And am I chosen as a test or a random sample of an average intelligent human being? I think so. And if this is true, then this is not a random process. Now we are faced with one decision: to embrace the 12 laws of living and live our life according to these laws, so we can avoid pain and injustice.
So give us an example. Give us an example
and pay the price.
Give us an example, because I'm trying to make the leap of from antimatter to the 12 laws, and then can you give us like a story or an example? I know that in your book, I think you have a couple of them. Just one would be really good, about how that can change our life.
Yes, there are a lot of examples, Janelle. Just that, it's a long process, and I start with two parts in this book. The first part is explaining in about 100 pages what the antimatter is, and how I arrived at the conclusion that is this electromagnetic field that we have, and this is how we operate on every field of the life. And the second part is the laws. But I will continue a little bit with the law and receiving, and this is so common. We see it every day. And this is what people, how we know they are left brain and right brain. So the right brain person receives information in short amounts and starts processing them quickly. Then a left brain person, which is able to receive longer amount of information for a longer time, and doesn't switch to thinking right away, because thinking, as this law says, is giving energy, and not thinking, but just paying attention to what is given to you, that's receiving this energy. So based on the type of brain, how the brain is built, people have different ways of interacting with others. Somebody will jump right away into giving ideas and advice when a story is shared, because maybe it's a right brain. We know this as much, but it's because of this law that this person is switching faster from receiving energy to giving out energy, because it started to think about this information and cannot hold this energy anymore. while another type of person can talk for a longer time. The left brain person, and usually females are left brain, so they can talk for a longer time. They occupy the spot, spotlight, and then they keep talking and talking, but the male who is right brain is switching already to giving energy. So it's in the moment of giving and cannot receive anymore that type of energy that is being shared. So that's one of the most conflicts between humans, male and female.
Yeah, I remember
and
that
there
example
from your.
conflicts. I remember that example from your book. And now you have like a 4-step formula, right, to harness the force of antimatter. And you say to deal with life's challenges, right? Do you want to talk a little about that? Like, what are the 4 steps?
The 4 steps actually are the other book, the Secret Beyond the Secret. And it's that happened before I was aware of antimatter, but I went back and I fixed somehow to those. Do you want me to talk about that
that's
book as well?
Yeah. So that's the Think, Pray, Wish, Dream, Dare formula, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
first one? Yes. It's,
and
the first step is
I wanted to mention your first book because we don't have much time here, but I just wanted to make sure people did know about your first book because, the thing about that, and I know the 2 books kind of go together, but you talk about how the law of attraction doesn't work for a lot of people. And you were trying to find the relationship between the law of attraction and destiny, right? And then see if I have this right. When you discovered the 12 laws of antimatter, or when you discovered antimatter, was that the missing piece for you?
When I discovered antimatter, those 4 steps were exactly what happened in my life, and it was more like I've been living it, and it wasn't surprising that was happening. I followed the four steps, and the law of attraction manifests, and I get what I am wishing for. Like it's easy. I'm living it. But when I discovered the laws of antimatter, I realized that destiny is also one of the laws. And then I went back to the first book and I kind of tried to fix it, just to add that part that destiny is also one of the laws, and the laws do not go against each other. They actually support each other. And once one of the laws kicks in, all of the laws start. Like, for example, we have a new knowledge, something new. Somebody shares a fact or, from the past, or anything new that goes against the previous laws or rules or morals, and everyone else is trying to resist it. And that's one of the laws.
So
we have no choice.
We've only got a moment here, or a few moments, I guess. But one thing, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to know more about what you're talking about and would like to experience this live. Are you doing some speaking right now? Are you on a speaking tour or contemplating going?
Right now, I'm not on a speaking tour, but I am with speaker services,
right.
So I'm listed there, and
so what do you think,
when I receive calls, I go and do some speaking.
What kind of group are you really aiming at? What do you think you'd be a good speaker for? What kind of group? What kind of interest group?
To tell the truth, any group that has questions about life and wonders why things happening, and are willing to learn about some ways of fixing them. I would talk about my book, and I think they will be interested to hear about the antimatter, because it's just this electromagnetic energy that follows the laws of nature, and it's can't go against it.
So is this something that anybody can?
And I have spoken to business.
Is this something anybody can channel? Anybody can find on their own?
I would believe that anybody who is interested in have questions would be happy to, like, I would believe that they were, like, when I had talking to business groups, businesswomen, and they liked it, and it's nothing to do with their business, but it's just something that you need to you like to learn to get along with others and not blame others, because that everything happens because of the laws of nature. And once you start understanding why things are happening that way, you don't blame the person.
Right. So you have personal responsibility for your own
adjust your behavior. Yeah, and theirs. But it would be best if everybody's aware. But at least you start with yourself. And also helps with positive psychology, which I'm teaching right now, and that many business groups are interested in positive psychology, how to resolve conflicts between colleagues and team workers, because one of the laws is law of appreciation, which actually goes to the core of human beings. That we like to be in the spotlight, we like to be appreciated because that gives us energy, not because others are giving us directly their own energy. It's just the attention they're paying. They're actually receiving energy from us, but because we are sharing some information. But just the attention that they're paying, it makes us feel worth it, makes us feel positive about ourselves, and we generate our own energy. So nobody takes our energy away, and we do not exchange energy like some other theories were before, established the way that, okay, people talk, they exchange energy.
So the law of the conservation of matter and energy is still good for you then. Matter can't be created or energy can't be created. It's all the energy and all the matter in the universe that have been or will be already is, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Well, the closest I've ever come to understanding your work actually was really what you said, which was, that when I do think of antimatter as just energy between people, like somebody might be tossing me a lot of this energy, or I just, from your work, I have become a little more conscious of emotional energy. And it's interesting to think of it in terms of the antimatter concept. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way? And find out, and how can they get your books?
Oh, well, thank you. My books are on Amazon right now, The Secret Beyond the Secret and the 12 Laws of Living. The third book, which is still in process because it's mostly the part that I took out from the 12 Laws of Living. Because to tell the truth, it took me a while to trim this book to the size that it is now, after I got a lot of feedbacks from people who read the first draft. And I divided it into the 12 Laws of Living, and the second part, which is very scientific, is called The Truth in Search of Antimatter. That book, the second one, is still in process, and you can download if you're interested. Anybody is interested to just know what's going on more scientifically. That is as a PDF format is on my website, www.knowthetruth.ca.
Knowthetruth.ca. www.knowthetruth, K-N-O-W, the truth, and that's all one word, right?
Yes, all one word. Knowthetruth.ca, right. Like Canada.
Okay, Canadian side, eh?
Yeah. Hey. Thank you so much, Adriana. One thing that Susan and I know from coaching with you is that you are passionate about what you do. Definitely, and that is something to always be that I've always admired. So thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And if people want to check out your website, knowthetruth.ca, we hope that they go there to find out more. So coming up, we have Diane Polnow is going to join us after the break. Are you ready to be a parent? How do you know? Have you have you given as much time thinking about being a parent as you did, say, planning your wedding or your vacation? So Diane has some interesting thoughts on how to know if you're ready to be a parent, and things you may not have thought about. So stay tuned. This is Talk Up Your Biz. We're LA Talk Live.
I'm watching it grow. If you believe, we will make it together. Planting a seed in my soul, our beauty will show. I'm taking a stand.
Hi, this is Jean Noel Bassior, inviting you to join me for my new show, The Book Beat, Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. I'll be talking to authors about their latest book so you can find a fantastic read. But more than that, I'll be talking to experts about how you can write your own book and get it published. So tune in on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. And remember, you can catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day, a brand new beginning. The future will blossom magnificently, 'cause today I'm planting the seed. Planting a seed to build a world closer to
Hi, and welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean Noel Bassior. Generally, I host a show with Susan Levin, but she's out today. She's going to be back soon.
Actually, I am Susan Levin.
Yeah, my brother's playing Susan Levin today. This is my brother, Rick Fleishman.
Hello there.
And we have our special guest, Diane Polnow, who has joined us. Diane was born in Chicago and was adopted at birth. And today she's a successful businesswoman with management experience working for Fortune 500 companies. She has a master's degree in psychology, and she's done extensive research into the costs, benefits, and challenges of child rearing. And why are you so passionate about this subject? What is it?
I am so passionate about this for many reasons, and one is, like you said, because I am adopted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a product of two people who were so unprepared to have a baby. And my goal is to prevent that from happening to other people, because I can only imagine the pain that not only my birth mother went through, but also my birth father. And so I would like to prevent people from going through that. And I think we all grow up thinking that we're supposed to get married, we're supposed to have children, and society almost deems that upon us. And I'm here to help people say, you don't have to do that, and you can still live a happy, fulfilled life. However, if you do decide to have children, do your homework and really think about it and know what you're getting into before you do it. There's thousands of books on the market right now that talk about what to do once you already have children, and I really focus on what you need to know before you do it.
Yeah, and practically no one's talking about that. Look at the Kardashian frenzy we've just been through, and the Kate having the baby. I mean, the media is just, never looks at the other side about, it's just, it's glamorized. Do you think it's glamorized? Like having kids is so glamorized in the media too, isn't it?
I do. I mean, just take a look at the magazine stand and count the number of magazines that have babies, bumps, celebrities with baby bumps on them. It's huge. It's all over the media, television, magazine, radio, everywhere we go. And it makes it sound like it's so easy and it's so glamorous. However, if people have been watching the Kardashian show, you find out real quick that it wasn't the fantasy that Kim thought it was. And she actually is a great example for all of us that I want to use and have your listeners think about. It wasn't all glamorous for her, and she is having a hard time with it, and that's reality. And I say having a baby is not fantasy. We need to be talking about the realities, and that's what my goal is.
What do you think the biggest myths about this are? What are the realities? I'm a parent. I didn't necessarily know what I was getting into before I became a parent, but I had thought about it in a kind of unique situation, which we can talk about in a moment if you like. But what do you think the myths are? What are people not ready for? What do people believe that they shouldn't believe? What do people not know that they need to know, in your opinion?
I talk about a lot of myths in my book, but just a couple of them are, number one, a lot of people think I'm meant to be a mom or I'm meant to be a dad. And that's not necessarily true. Being a parent is really, really difficult for a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
So there you go. You're a testimony to that.
I know you've been through that.
I have. But I mean, it's great. There's a lot of rewards too.
Absolutely.
So years ago, before we had our daughter, we knew somebody who had written a book on this subject. And for in some way that I really don't understand, the Today Show, in promoting her book, got in touch with us and did a package where they took us shopping at a baby store, and we were supposed to be, and we honestly were, amazed and kind of dazzled by how expensive everything was. The angle on this package was how expensive it is to have a child. Have you thought about this? How will you pay for
And
this?
you were on the fence, right? You were thinking about it, right?
We were thinking about it, and we weren't quite sure what we were going to do. And this was one of they did a series, and our particular show was, what does it cost to have a baby? And this was our daughter was born in 1988. So this was 87, something like that. We went to a baby store and looked at, how expensive things were. And then they interviewed us a little bit about that. And the other angle was, we were both freelance musicians. We were self-employed people. There were going to be no guarantees for us. So that was part of the deal. So one of the myths that we had to figure out in a logical way was, what is this going to cost? How does this fit into our life? Will it fit into our life? Are we willing to make the sacrifices that you have to make to have a child?
Absolutely. I'm glad you went through that exercise, and I wish a lot of other people would do the same.
Right. Well, I don't know that we would have gone through it had they not said, this is a Today Show, we're going to do this thing, do you want to be part of it?
Yeah.
But I don't think, I doubt very many people really go through it in the detail that we did, and that's only one phase of it.
I absolutely agree. And the cost of having a child is gigantic, and people don't know it, and it's one of the things that can be really blindsiding.
Yes.
And so I felt it was so important. I dedicated an entire chapter on it in my book. People can read and get details on how much, and a breakdown of how much it costs to have a child.
Breakdown is a good word too.
Breakdown. Not emotional. This is financial we're talking about. But some people do break down because of the financial cost. People don't understand this, but it can literally cost up to $500,000 to raise a child from birth to age 18. Staggering.
Well, so you're saying before college then?
Not including college.
Right.
And of course, it depends on where they live and what their spending habits are. If you live in a place like LA, right, you see babies walking around with Burberry and Chanel. And,
Well, that's not necessary, but it's possible certainly to do that.
Absolutely, and it's true.
I mean, that's only one aspect of it. And it's not the most important, but it's certainly one thing of it. That's just what this particular show was about, but there's a lot more to it than that.
There is. It's not just a financial cost.
No.
It's also what would happen to your relationship.
Right.
A lot of people forget to think about that. They think a baby is going to help their relationship. In a lot of cases, it can and it will bring a lot of love and bonding and closeness. And a lot of other cases, it does exactly the opposite. And, say what you want, but our divorce rate is 50% these days. And I'm a believer that children are impacting a divorce rate. And I believe that because I don't think people are doing enough pre-homework and enough knowledge and education and study before they have babies. Jean Noel said it best when she kind of introduced me. She said people spend more time, or I say people spend more time planning a vacation or a wedding
Right.
than
Yeah.
they do planning to have a baby.
Yeah, I got
And
that from
shouldn't
you
be that
actually.
way.
So, what do you suggest, though, realistically? How much time and research should people and thought should people put into this before they make that decision?
As much as possible, because this is a lifetime decision. If somebody decides to get married, we all know you can get out of a marriage. Whether you want to or not, it happens, and it's happening in our world today. People are leaving marriages, whether they've been in it a long time or a very short time.
And they're abandoning their children too, a lot of them.
They are.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
Because the mothers and fathers don't know what to do, and they didn't realize what impact it would have. And if we look at statistics, 24 million children right now don't have a parent. Over 100,000 children are waiting to be adopted. Over 400,000 children are in the foster care system, and we hear more about adopting pets and helping pets that are in trouble than we are talking about children, and children having care and home and love. So this is why I'm so passionate about this subject. Children are our future, and there's too many children out there that just don't have guidance and that love and nurturing that they need from a person in their life.
Yeah, I've always been conscious of this, that even, we see these celebrity examples all the time, but, then we hear, say, a marriage breaking up after 10 years, and I always feel so sorry for these kids, because then somebody remarries, has a new family, and I'm going like, how you deal with that, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's downplayed. I think it must be devastating. So you're thinking of these kids as well.
I absolutely am. And that's, my book. Some people might think that I'm anti-children. I'm absolutely not. I'm so pro-children. That's why I'm doing this. I love children. And I also say that you don't have to birth a child to be a parent. There are so many kids, and like the statistics I just listed, there's so many kids that are begging to have somebody in their life to help them and be a mentor. So I suggest, go be around children. If you're thinking about being a parent, spend time around kids of all ages, because we have this fantasy that it's a baby. Well, it's not just a baby. You're having
It's only a baby for a very short time.
Right. You're having that 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. And we all hear stories about that. You're having a 4-year-old, and wait till you
Well,
get to the teenage stage.
I have a
You
25-year-old.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And people forget about thinking beyond that cute little bundle of joy that who can deny that, and they forget about that nasty, crazy teenager
Right.
that who was a bundle of joy that might turn into somebody like my brother, who was into drugs and alcohol, and it was complete challenge for my mom and dad. So you forget about that. And I think people, when they make this decision too, don't go into it thinking that I could have a child that has emotional, mental, or physical problems.
Right.
My parents had adopted my brother before they adopted me. So he was 2 years older. So my brother ended up playing football, was very smart, got good grades, got hurt when he was in high school, couldn't play football anymore, and that was the turning point for
Right.
his life.
Well, what you learn when you have kids, or what I learned, one of the things is there are no guarantees about anything.
Right.
So we used to have this is a little macabre, but we had a saying around our house is, we could have had a baby with a hole in its heart or something. And people go through awful, awful things at birth. And then at every turn, there's all kinds of bad things that can happen. And you just learn that nothing is guaranteed. You can try your best, and then it's another person you're dealing with. It's not a Barbie doll that you can say, okay, today we're going to play this fantasy, and tomorrow we're going to play this. It's a kid, it's a person, and things are going to happen the way that they happen. And you really don't know what's going to happen. The strength of character comes from responding to the events that happen that have nothing to do with you.
Exactly. And we see so much now on the television about autism. These children who are growing up with autism, growing up with ADD, all kinds
Right.
of things, and parents don't expect that. They still live in that fantasy of how cute and adorable their little baby is going to be, and then they don't know what to do once that happens, and those are life changers.
So what are 3 things that you say there's 3 things that parents should think about, or people should think about before having a child? What are those three things?
Well, we talked about it a little bit. The first one's the cost.
Okay.
They have to really understand, do I have the finances? People go get qualified to get a loan for a house, and if they don't qualify, they can't buy a house. So I kind of say, would you qualify to have a child financially if you want one?
Yeah, because just like that house, it's going to be something you're going to be making, spending X number per month, right? I mean,
Exactly.
same thing.
But you can sell the house.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't
true.
get rid of your child.
Oh, good point.
Big difference. You're
Yeah.
going to have that child for the rest of your life. You can sell
True.
the house, you can do whatever you want with your marriage, but you still have a child.
Yeah, that's true.
So the other thing that I really recommend is we talked about this too, you really have to understand it's not just that baby. You've got to look at this for the next 18 years or more, because children are now living with their parents a lot longer
Right.
than I think the parents or the child ever wanted them to. And so you've got to look beyond just the baby stage. And lastly, you've really got to be willing to say, am I willing, if I had to, raise this child for the rest of myself by myself? Because
That's
you
a
never
very
know
important
what's going to
point.
happen.
Yeah,
I
that's a
lost
very
my
important
father at the age of 50, got up, went to work, had a heart attack, and we never saw him again. My mom was left to raise us, and I don't think she ever expected it, and that happens a lot. So, would you be willing to raise this child regardless of what happened to your relationship?
Right.
And what would happen depending on if your child had any emotional, mental, physical problems?
Yeah.
That's also got to be a commitment.
Well,
So
in addition to the tragedy you're describing, which is that you just cannot anticipate something like that, we know that from the group of people that we were around, a surprising amount of the marriages of our friends and our daughters, co-students and things like that, have fallen apart in the 25 years or so. And a lot of those people became single parents by choice or by not their own choice, but by the choice of someone else in the relationship. And then you have the problem of, I'm a single parent this week, my wife is, or my ex-wife is a single parent next week, that kind of thing. It's a lot of stress involved in that too. So these tragedies can happen in more prosaic ways than just, truly biblical tragedies.
it is, and I don't think we yet have studies on the impacts the children are facing.
I've done a study. It just sucks.
I mean, gosh, and the blended families and what that's like,
Yeah.
and there's so many different dynamics. We have to update the way we think about parenthood and having children. We are so archaic when it comes to this thought, and my goal is to get people updated into the 21st century. We've got to look at parenthood and the choices a lot differently. It's not given. It is a choice, and it can be a choice. And I say, if you're going to do it, be great at it. And if you're not going to do it, that's okay too. I've talked to a lot of people that said, oh my God, thank God there's somebody telling me that nothing's wrong with me because I don't want to have a child.
Right, that's an important message too. You actually had an intriguing question here. What do men fear most about parenthood?
There's a lot of fears men have about parenthood. I did a lot of interviews and I talked to men. Number one is they want to know if I'm going to be like my dad. Even women say, I'm never going to be like my mother, and guess what? A lot of times we are. They say, am I going to be like my dad? And that could be a good or a bad thing, because if the man had a mentor as a father, that's a good thing. If maybe not so much, then it's challenging.
Well, in most cases, the only example you have is your own parents. You don't have
Right.
anywhere else to look.
Right.
So that's a place to begin, and then from there you say, okay, did this work? Did this not work? How'd this turn out for me? Should I continue this tradition, or is this something that I should stop here before I move on?
Did you find that? Did you turn into dad?
There's times when I turn. Well, this is a unique perspective in that we have the same. We're talking about the same person when we say turn into dad, our dad.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but sometimes, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I found myself echoing things that he had said or that he had done, because that's the only example I had. I mean, there were other people who we had a very unique childhood. Let's put that on the table right here. So there were other people that took us in from time to time, and so I had other examples of father figures, but I only had one actual father, and that's the person who had the most influence on me in terms of a male role model. And you learn what to do and what not to do. It's like It's like listening to jazz. There's people I like to play like, and there's people I don't like to play like. But I learn a lot from the people I don't want to play like as well.
Right.
And that's why I asked, because like you, Rick and I had kind of a unique childhood where we kind of lived in different places. Some different things happened to us. But it would sort of be like that would be the last person that you would kind of think.
In some ways,
it's not like Dad gave great advice all the time or was the typical,
No, but I mean, but it wasn't all bad either. This is what I've tended to find out.
You've come to
I've come to realize
that
it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all good. It was what it was. But the difference there is that most people lionize their parents, or not most people anymore, but a lot of people did. Yeah. Certainly, the previous generation did. If it was good enough for them, well, it's good enough for you. Mm-hmm. And we found out. In our case specifically, but I think in our generation's case, that wasn't always true. Our parents did not know much about parenting. They read Dr. Spock, maybe, and they learned a lot about, I mean, I won't drop the baby, I won't burn the baby, I won't freeze the baby. Aside from that, there's not really a lot there for that generation. Our generation got more into the headspace of it, and I think that that's better. But, some of what Dad did was great. Some of what Dad did was not so great.
Yeah, and I watched you kind of realize that. And like you, we kind of had to raise ourselves, or invent ourselves, whatever you say. But and one thing about Sarah, your child is
my daughter,
kind of your daughter. Yeah. This is my niece. This is kind of interesting. Is now we all want to be Sarah because Sarah turned out so great that she's got a job where she travels around the world. She's in the tech biz, and it's like she's living this kind of dream existence. And now we're going like, gee, we want to be Sarah.
Yeah. How can I be like that? Well, kudos to you as a parent.
Thank you. I mean, she's a great kid, and we're very proud of her, obviously.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I do say, for the record, I just commend you so much. Anybody that is a parent out there, that's a good parent, wow, my hat is off to you. It is the hardest job that anybody can ever do, and that's the reality check. So people need to know that.
Yeah. Well, it takes. I have a good wife, and she knows a lot about this as well, and it takes dedication. You do what you have to do.
It does.
Hold up that magazine cover because this is so timely. This is this week's Time magazine, right? Mm-hmm. And look at how this issue is on the national stage.
It's really amazing. When I saw that Time magazine on the front cover did an article about the child-free life when having it all means not having children, I said, wow, finally somebody else than me that is talking about this. It's not to say that is perfect, right? Is anything in life perfect?
But at least there's the other side.
It's another choice anyway.
Yeah, and the other
exactly.
Right. Yeah, it's okay to consider, that choice as well.
It is, and they put a lot of statistics in the article about how more and more people are deciding to become child-free and not have children. And again, the purpose of writing my book was to give people information and use that information to their advantage and say, okay, I know more now than I did going into this. If I decide I'm not going to do it, that's okay. Nothing's wrong with you. Help the children that need it. Be a mentor. Volunteer. There's so many things you can do.
Is there any correlation there? I mean, are people, like you said something intriguing. I don't know if we have the time to go into this, but you said people are deciding not to have kids. Are people deciding not to have kids, or are people simply not having kids? And beyond that, the ones who are not having kids, are they going into mentorship and adopting and all this, or are they just sort of neutral on the subject? Are they just not participating?
It really depends. I've got people that I talked to, that I interviewed. They went into their marriage not talking about children, not deciding if they both wanted children, not being on the same page. The female wanted kids, and the husband said, no, I don't. Caused a problem in the marriage. But I thought, wow, isn't that a conversation you should have had before you got married?
But most people don't.
But they don't.
Right.
And that's what I'm hoping people will change as part of my message. But they are choosing not to. They're consciously saying, I want to travel. I've got things on my bucket list I want to do. And maybe they're getting to a point in their life where they've established their career. And maybe they're at an age where they're saying, at this point in my life, it's probably not for me. And that's what I did. I got to a point in my life. I had a career. I've had a career. I felt really blessed and grateful that I have. And I got to a point where I said, right now, it's not for me. I want to continue to travel the world, and I want to do things. And I feel like I have the best of both worlds. I have two wonderful godchildren that I've had in my life since I've been young, since they've been babies. And I've been able to spoil them, spend time with them, and give them back to their mom and dad. And then I go on with my life. And then another friend of mine's a principal at a school, and she asked for people who would want to be a mentor. And I raised my hand and I said, I'll be a mentor at elementary school. I'd go in once a week and help mentor a little girl. Then I'd go home and I'd be on with my life.
You've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yes.
Where can people get your book?
People can get my book at Amazon.com, or they can go to my website. It's available in soft copy, and it's also available in Kindle version.
And why don't you give us your website?
Great. My website is www.babydebate.com.
Baby Debate, one word?
One word.
Okay, www.babydebate.com.
And I want to say the book is laid out like a journey. The chapters it's laid out as if you're taking a journey. So it's a very well put together book. It's very well written. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Of course.
So join us next week for Talk Up Your Biz. And this is Jean Noel Bastior and my co-host,
Rick Fleishman.
And we will see you next week here at LA Talk Live, where we are more than just talk.
In my soul, our beauty will show. I'm taking a stand and making a difference. Ready to change the world that I see. 'Cause I have a dream. True love is evergreen. I know it's not too late. Gonna grow some love today. Planting a seed to build a world closer to heaven. Planting a seed in my soul. Yeah, I'm watching it grow. If you believe, then we'll make it together. Planting a seed in my soul, our beauty will show. And when everything is going wrong, and you feel like giving up, dance in the moonlight, pray for the rain. Welcome back the sunshine, like a lost friend. Yeah, 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 yeah. Planting a seed that you love.